Hey everybody, hope you're all doing good today. Out here in the tackle room getting ready to start on today's tip. And hey, if you hear some loud noise while I'm doing this tip, it's the ice melting off of these trees here in southwest Missouri. We had about an average ice storm here a couple days ago. It's melting today, and the ice is just coming down everywhere. It's pretty loud right now, so if you hear that. But hey, before we get started today, just a couple little housekeeping tips. Just wanted to make a reminder again, Johnny and I have our Fish the Moment advanced jerkbait seminar coming up this Thursday from 6 to 9 p.m. You can go on fishthemoment.com, sign up for that. It's going to be master's course in jerkbait fishing. We're going to go over everything as far as wintertime jerkbait fishing, pre-spawn. It's going to be a really good deal. Also, we're starting up our spring lake map breakdown, so we're starting to put some of those up too. You might want to check out too. But anyway, today's topic, what we're going to be talking about, is one of my least favorite ways to fish, yet it's one of the most productive ways that I've ever caught fish in the wintertime. And I do use it a lot when I'm fishing for fun. We can't use it much in tournaments anymore because a lot of the tournaments have banned it, and that's the Alabama rig. The Alabama rig is a staple of the wintertime bass fishing arsenal around much of the country, particularly here in southwest Missouri, along with the jerkbait and spoons and that type of stuff. From about now until the water temperature starts to reach 60 degrees, that's when the Alabama rig shines. And it's a bait that I think a lot of people don't fully understand as far as how effective it is in a lot of different water temperature ranges, because some of the biggest bags of bass that get caught on an Alabama rig are later in the spring when people stop throwing it. It's getting close to the spawn. Fish are moving shallow. A lot of people just quit throwing the thing, but there's always a late group of pre-spawners that are out, and they can really fall victim to the Alabama rig. But for the most part, when I talk about Alabama rigs, I'm always thinking jerkbait at the same time. And the one thing that I found out about an Alabama rig that we're going to talk in detail about here in this video is that the Alabama rig will produce bigger fish than a jerkbait. The jerkbait will produce more fish. The jerkbait will produce fish under a wider range of weather conditions, and the Alabama rig tends to work better on days where it's a little bit nastier, a little bit cloudier, windier, south wind, that type of stuff. When those fish are more active and aggressive, they'll hit an Alabama rig. But what I want to do today is I want to go through and give you a detailed breakdown of how I fish them and how I set them up and everything, and what to look for. First of all, let's talk about blades versus not blades. Here you have a bladed Alabama rig, which most people throw. I mean, anymore, that's what you see more than anything. And then you have the version that doesn't get thrown much anymore. This is a Megabass Spark rig, Alabama rig made by Megabass. Most people don't throw the non one anymore, but this is the one that was the traditional beginning of the Alabama rig without the spinners. A lot of people have gotten where they throw the spinners all the time. It's just sort of their go-to deal. A lot of people throw that Flash Mob Junior. That's like one of the most popular ones in the market because they're accessible blades. But one of the things I want to tell you is don't get locked in onto the Alabama rigs with blades all the time. Because a lot of times, if you're fishing a situation where the water visibility is, say, greater than like 3.5 or 4 feet, you don't have a lot of wind, the fish are a little bit spooky, maybe you got maybe a fronts come through, a lot of times they're going to hit the Alabama rig without the spinners on it. It's a little bit more subtle profile. It doesn't draw as much attention to itself, it's just a little bit more, less obtrusive coming through the water column. So the times that I like to throw the blades are when those bass are really aggressive, when you got higher winds, cloud conditions, fish are just more aggressive. I'll throw the bladed model, and I'll throw the non-bladed model when it's a little bit tougher. Now, added to that, you have profile of Alabama rigs. A lot of different profiles up there, and one of the things that you found is, like, years ago when Alabama rigs first came out, everybody used these big giant profile ones, and this is like a medium one. They come even bigger than this. that was the standard setup on there. They fished the big paddle-tail swim baits, big giant Alabama rigs. But what happened after the first year or so, those were really effective, and then the bass got conditioned to them. They got off a little bit, and what you've seen now is you've seen a trend towards a smaller profile Alabama rig. And these are the ones I prefer to throw myself. For example, this is a desert rig right here. This is a 2-hooked rig. This is the one I use out at Lake Mead when I'm fishing out there quite a bit. Smaller profile. Got the blades on this one, and then Megabass also makes this finesse spark rig. This is a 4-hook model, and I catch a ton of fish on this one like a table rock. You can see the difference. Here's the standard Megabass one, and here's the finesse model, the junior. And this is actually my go-to deal here. When I'm fishing an Alabama rig in the middle of the winter, when it's really cold like it is right now, I want a finesse Alabama rig. What I'm doing is I'm taking this little finesse Alabama rig, and I'm usually rigging it with I use a 3-inch Megabass Spark Shad on this particular rig. It's and I'll put all of them the same size on it. A lot of times people will go with a bigger center hook, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But when I'm using a finesse model in the middle of the winter, I'm using the 3-inch Megabass Spark Shad as my trailer, usually the Megabass 1/8 ounce Okashira jig head on it, set up on like that, throwing it on 17 to 20 pound test Seaguard Vizex line. Megabass Alkalies flipping stick is my setup that I use on that. That's what I use on all the Alabama rigs, is that it's a flipping stick. I use the Megabass Alkalies flipping stick for it. Like I said, 17 to 25 pound test line. Also, when you're talking about line on Alabama rigs, a lot of people like braided line, and when it first started out, people threw braided line a lot, but you'll find that you get a lot more bites on Alabama rig with fluorocarbon. The go-to deal now, even for a lot of the really good Alabama rig fishermen, is throwing 20 to 25 pound test fluorocarbon. It's a little bit less obtrusive. It gives you a little bit more give on it. I just like the feel of it a lot better with that. So those are the two main differences on this: the blades versus the not blades, the larger profile Alabama rigs versus the more smaller ones. So now we'll talk about baits a little bit. There's 3 different sizes of baits I use on it, and it depends on the type of Alabama rig I'm throwing, and it depends on the type of fish I'm fishing for. The 3 that I use are I use the Megabass Spark Shads. This is the 5-inch model right here, the big one. This is the 4-inch model, and the 3-inch model with it. So you've got these 3 setups like this, the 3 sizes on there. Now I change and I vary these up based upon a lot of different variables. Like I said, time of the day, wind, weather condition, type of lake I'm fishing for, if the lake has predominant largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, all that type of stuff. Here again, I want to go through my favorite setups. My favorite setup to use on all of them, like I said, we'll start out again, is the finesse Alabama rig with the 3-inch Spark Shad. If I'm fishing a lake that, just like an average Alabama rig setup where you're fishing off main lake points, just an average fishery, that type of stuff, I like to go, with the bladed setup and the 4-inch Megabass Spark Shad on all the way around. I prefer on this setup to use the same size all the way around. But if I'm fishing like a big fish lake in the late pre-spawn, when I'm expecting to catch big ones, like say for example I'm fishing a lake like one of the TVA lakes, Chickamauga, Guntersville, that type of stuff, where it's known for big fish. In that situation, that's where I go to the big Alabama rig, blade or not blade, it doesn't really matter. I'll put 4 of this 4-inch Spark Shads on it, and then I'll add the 5-inch one, the big one, on the very end as the teaser. So most of the time you're going to get this fish on the big 5-inch Spark Shad or the big swim bait that you're using on there. But a lot of people, when they set up their Alabama rigs, they always put a bigger one on the center hook. And the only time that I found out that works really good for me is if I'm fishing a big bass fishery where there's a lot of big bass in it. One of the things I've noticed, if you're fishing a lake that's tough, or if you're fishing a lake that has a lot of spotted bass in it, like around here in Missouri, you know, all of our White River chain lakes, Stockton Lake, Lake of the Ozarks, all that type of stuff, these lakes that have a lot of spotted bass in it, I catch a lot more fish going with the same size swim bait in the smaller version along the same size. One of the things I'll do with it, you know, I'm using all the shad type colors, is I'll put some maybe chartreuse dye on the tail a lot of times on one of them. Sometimes that'll, you know, trigger that fish to bite, and you'll get a little bit more on that. But anyway, that's the basic setup that I use. Basic recap, let's go over it one more time. When you're talking about a bladed Alabama rig versus a non-bladed Alabama rig, use the blades when the fish are really aggressive, wind, clouds, that type of stuff. Tough conditions, go to the Alabama rig without the blades on it. Bright sunny days with not much wind. If you have a lake that has a lot of spotted bass in it and the fishing's really tough, downsize to the smaller sizes. Downsize to these finesse type Alabama rigs with the smaller size, where you can throw the 3-inch swim baits on it, and it'll add up to a lot more fish. But anyway, that's my Alabama rig setup. Like I said, it's not one of my favorite baits to fish. I love to fish it for fun, you know, but I don't like the reason I don't like to fish an Alabama rig in tournaments is because if you're fishing a tournament, like Johnny Schultz and I are going to be fishing some buddy tournaments together this year. If you're fishing a tournament like a buddy circuit where Alabama rigs are legal and they're biting an Alabama rig, you might as well put all your other stuff in the box, because somebody's going to win that tournament on an Alabama rig. Alabama rigs produce big fish, they produce winning bags of fish, but they're inconsistent. You'll have 50 guys throwing an Alabama rig, and there may be 2 or 3 guys catch them on it, and everybody else is struggling. So it's one of those baits. It's situational. It's a tool like anything else. It produces big fish. You have to know when and where to throw it under what conditions. But anyway, that's today's tip. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for tuning in to me. Like I said, appreciate subscribing to the channel. If you like this video, please hit that like button. That means a lot as far as the algorithm on YouTube. And I think right now I've got 60% of the people that watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel, so I'd invite everybody that's not subscribing to subscribe. That would help out a lot too. So anyway, appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good day, and we'll be back soon with another tip. See you.